All right. Welcome back to the Remote Creative Podcast. Today, we have a very exciting thing to discuss. This is something that I have just grown more and more passionate about over the years. And yeah, let's just dig into it. So, there are many ways that you can price your services. And I have certainly experimented with many methods over the past 2 decades. And what I want to do is tell you what I've done and what I've learned from each of these methods. So I'm going to start just by being very straight up. As creatives, we want to make money. We love what we do. We're passionate about the creative process. We love our clients, but at the end of the day, we have to eat. We want to give our families the best, and we want to experience all that life has to offer, just like everybody else. So how do we have it all? Is it possible? Well, there isn't really any secret formula, but there are some recipes that you can follow, and some recipes taste better than others, both for you and your clients. And it's just a matter of trying different things out and see what works. So I've certainly come to some conclusions about what I think works best, both for me and what I think works best just for everyone in general. So let me start off by going back in time and talking about where I began. So I started off just offering flat fees and hourly rates. And I think that's where most creatives start out, right? We begin the process of doing the work and we start to think, okay, well, how do we price this stuff? And so we go, oh, well, I'll just have a price for a logo, a price for a website, and I'll charge accordingly. Or I'll do an hourly rate. I'll say I'm worth this much per hour. And then we start our business, we start charging, and money starts rolling in. And when we see that money roll in, we're like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do something I love. It's just a very great time of life where you're getting paid for doing something you enjoy so much. You get a taste of that, and it engages you and it sucks you in, right? And so the problem is I think a lot of creatives, we don't like math. We like art, right? So we choose one of these easy pricing formulas. Okay, 1 hour of my time is worth X amount of dollars. One logo is worth X. One website's worth X. We price our creative projects and our time like commodities. And for someone like me, I did not have a lot of prospects for education. It wasn't really an option for me. I grew up doing lawn maintenance and construction, marine construction. And I slaved away in the heat, injuries from stepping on nails, smashing your thumb, falling off things, having boards and lumber land on you, getting electrocuted, all kinds. Just sweating. I got a really, really nice tan through all those years. But yeah, I grew up working hard manual labor, pushing my body to the limit. And that was good for me. I think it developed my character quite a bit. But I also think it instilled in me just the idea that working harder is where the value is. You just have to work hard and good things will happen. And that's not true. And I didn't understand what a commodity was. I didn't understand how people made money in business. So I moved on in life, and I didn't have money for college. I didn't do well in school because I spent all my time drawing and working on my skills. In fact, it's kind of funny because I was sitting there next to a computer science teacher. One of my last electives I took my senior year was computer science. It was one of those classes that I took because I was interested in it, but if I failed, it didn't really matter. It was just an elective. And my teacher sat next to me and he goes, "Hey, I just want to tell you, you made the lowest grade of any student I've ever had in history." Like my average in his class. And he's like, "I just couldn't believe it." He goes, "I tried everything with you." He goes, I knew you were interested in art and design. And he even changed the structure of the class to try to help me succeed. This was a great guy, right? He really cared about his students. I didn't realize this at the time, and just kind of how, I guess, ungrateful I was for not doing better in his class. But we started doing animation and more graphical stuff because he saw I wasn't really getting the more technical aspects. And here, years down the road, I'm building websites and doing things. So I ended up excelling in the thing that I scored horribly in. I wonder if my record still stands to this day. But yeah, I was just kind of mentally checked out. So, I got some Pell Grants, and I got an associate's degree at a local community college. I mean, I was scraping away. I was making hardly anything. I was trying to get my business up and running, and I was doing a lot of different things, a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. A lot of it didn't work out, had some big failures, and I was just scraping by. And I didn't feel like college really did that much for me. A lot of the classes were just kind of blah. And we were at the age where, the internet's still just kind of coming full force. I didn't have a lot of experience with it though. And so I didn't really understand how to teach myself. I was brought up in public school. Somebody had to teach you, and that's how you learned. You didn't really teach yourself. But I had taught myself how to draw. Like when I was 13, I've shared this before, but I started my own business, and I was doing logos and illustrations, and I was making money doing work, and I was teaching myself without the internet. I was having to, I get these books, these drawing books and things, but those were expensive. I didn't have a lot of money. I wasn't making a ton from my commissions because I was charging hardly anything because I was a starving artist, right? And that's how I started off. And so I had to teach myself everything, even up to this day, all self-taught. And I didn't really realize how much I could be my own teacher at the time, or I didn't realize, how I could get knowledge from other sources, how I could find mentors, things like that, right? It was a very confusing time. So I just worked really hard. I slaved away and I killed myself. So anyway, I did this for nearly a decade. And I did well for myself, actually, but there were certain key things that I just didn't understand about the actual business side of my business. And I had become masterful at wowing my clients and getting spectacular results. But there was just this other layer of gold hidden beneath the surface that I had no clue about because I was so focused on the art. I was like, if I could just produce better results, I will make more money. It was like the South Park underpants gnomes, where they're like, we'll get the other underpants. Step 1, step 2, ? Step 3, profit. It was, that's a meme, but it's true. That's how a lot of people view things. And I think it's how starving artists view things as well. So as time went on, my family grew, had more kids, inflation did its thing, money got tighter, and my low fixed rates were just not working anymore. You had to get larger homes to fit more people in, all of these things. So I decided to try something completely new. And I saw that I had 40 hours a week. I started thinking more technically here. I said, all right, 40 hours a week, and each one of those hours has value. So what if I could fill all of them perpetually at a certain rate? What would that be worth per month and per year? So I started doing the math. And, I opened up an Excel spreadsheet and started entering numbers. And I'm like, okay, what if I can make this much money per year by filling up every hour of every month? That should be possible, right? And so my plan was to book out all these 40 hours of my week perpetually. So if I finished a project, the new hours would be available and I would just fill those with another client. So I got to the point where I started realizing I couldn't do multiple clients I could do multiple clients at the same time, but it was limited. I was limited by the number of hours in a day and the status of each project. So I'd have to book clients out a little bit further. This was kind of a good thing because I was so used to taking clients immediately and cramming in stuff and trying to do multiple clients simultaneously, staying up to all hours of the night. And that just wasn't going to work. But this way, I had a little bit more structure and plan in the day. And this made it simple for the clients because I actually didn't charge any deposits up front. I would just start billing for hours. So if it was a logo or a website, I would give them an estimate. So the key to this strategy was I'd give ballparks. I'd say it's going to take between, 10 and 20 hours. So on the high end, it'll cost, my hourly rate times 20 hours or my hourly rate times 10 hours. So it'll be somewhere in there. Is that fine with you? And they would say, yeah, that's cool. If it's somewhere in that ballpark, I've got budget for that. Perfect. I'll start working on it. So what would be the maximum amount of hours that you would be willing to pay per week until we reach the end goal? And they would say, well, I'll pay, for 5 hours a week or 10 or 20 or whatever. If they wanted to move faster, they would set that maximum higher. They say, well, I really want to get this done. So I would fill up all those hours in my week and say, I'm just going to work on this project. And then I would book all those days up and I would just have that going perpetually. So my calendar was completely full. And this was so much more different than before because I used to have these peaks and valleys. It was feast or famine. A lot of work would come in and then it would go away. And a lot of work would come in and it would go away. And it was up and down and up and down. And some months were very hard because there just wasn't money in. Well, this strategy, it was amazing. I had a consistent revenue stream for the first time. The money was predictable. The clients were booked out. And every single hour of my day was filled if I wanted it to be. And I thought I was a complete genius. I thought I had cracked the code, right? And in one respect, I had figured out a way to create consistent income doing remote work. And at least one way of doing it, right? And so, gosh, it was just great to see those consistent months. It allowed our family to really prosper for a time. But after about a year and a half, I started to realize that my solution created a few problems. And the first thing is I was working constantly. I was young and had the energy, but I was just slaving away hour by hour and had no wiggle room. In my mind, it was like, look, you work during the day is for work. That's how it is. You work 8 hours, and then after that, that's your free time. And then you have vacation day, a couple of vacation weeks a year, and that's how life is. You don't just play during the day. You can't just go off during the day to do something, but family would come in town and like, hey, we're going to go see a movie in the middle of the day, or we're going to go golfing, and I'm like, no, I got to work. I've got those hours booked and I got to work. I got to make the money. I got to pay the bills. And I didn't have any flexibility and I just became this workaholic. So, if I wasn't there to get the work done, it wouldn't get done. And everything had to be perfect. Everything had to be done. I have to please the clients. I have to keep the clients happy because even all these years, I've never really done any advertising at all. All of my work has been word of mouth. People go, Steve's the guy. You go to Steve. He'll take care of you. He'll make it awesome. And that would make that client super happy. Then they would pass my name around. And that's just how it's worked. So I didn't invest any money into marketing and advertising. I was like, I'm going to invest my time and all of my skills and abilities into my clients. That way they'll be so happy they'll pass my name along. And that worked. It's worked beautifully for nearly 20 years. Word of mouth is just phenomenal to get people who value what you do so much they're willing to pass you along like that has been such a blessing. But as you can imagine, constant practice, constant work and effort, it improves your skill and you start to become more efficient and you get better and better and do more complex and difficult work faster. Now, do you see the problem with charging hourly? So a job that took me 5 hours before only took me 3 now. That means the client paid less money while getting the same amount of value or more in less time. So the clients were making out like bandits. That's why they're so happy, I guess. But I was getting screwed by my own system. And that realization, fortunately, came to me at some point. It took a year and a half, but I realized there were pros and cons, but it began to dawn on me. So my beautifully organized plan had these fatal flaws. And it would have worked great for something like a machine or a robot that was eternally consistent and spit out the same thing over and over. But I'm an evolving human, constantly learning, constantly improving, getting better. And I actually have aspirations just beyond the work. I have a family, friends, a life. And, I'm starting to get a little bit older and wiser now. And I'm starting to see that life can't just be about work. There's more important things. My kids are getting older now. I'm starting to have like really in-depth, intense conversations. There are things that you dream about as a child of doing. And I've spent years and years accomplishing all the things I ever wanted to accomplish. And I'm feeling like, man, what more is there left to do in my career? I've done so much. And so I'm getting to the point where life is starting to have more appeal to me than work. And so I'm like, man, I got to figure this out. How do I do this? So with a heavy heart, I scrapped my hourly rate strategy and I went back to a mix of hourly and fixed rates like before, but I had the confidence in all of the skills and abilities that I just have built up over the years to raise my prices a little more and keep my business just barely above profitable. So years later, that's when I started to learn about value-based pricing. And at first, if I'm being honest, it scared the crap out of me. It involved math. It involved a certain kind of boldness with the client and an almost intrusiveness in asking hard questions about their business plans, projected profitability that would be boosted by my services. But the beauty of value-based pricing is that it's really the perfect thing for a creative business. So with creative work, there's a lot of subjectivity because art is involved. And art is all about subjectivity. What do you see? Do you value, why are some paintings valued more than others? Why does a painting that looks like it was created by a 6-year-old with crayons worth more than an actual painting created by a 6-year-old with crayons? What's the difference, right? And art can be that way. And so when we're offering design work, a lot of it is art-based. And you think, well, there's a lot of artists out there. I'll just pay one artist and they'll produce something comparable to another artist. They think that design work, a lot of clients out there, and a lot of business people, they just think design work is a commodity and anyone can do the same, blah, blah. So you have to be able to say, okay, well, how can I increase the value? Can it be increased? Yes, it can be in so many different ways. It'll blow your mind. I mean, any logo can be made to look great, but that doesn't mean it's the right logo. You need to test it and prove it. And a lot of people don't take those additional steps. Many designers are just drive-by hit and run designers. They'll get a job, they'll do the work, and then they'll move on to the next one. That's it. And they'll come back to the client if the client needs more. But you see, this isn't really helpful to the client. You need to stay more engaged and make sure the client's getting what they need and tie your success to theirs. And do this a lot more. So I had a prospect recently that wanted a logo. I asked how many clients they were going to take on per year. A client comes to you and they go, hey, I need this logo for my business and I want it to be awesome. And many designers go, okay, great. What do you want? And they start asking and they focus all about the logo. What should it look like? What colors? All that stuff. It's important. But what I did with this client is I didn't say anything about the logo. Nothing about the design at all. First thing I asked was how many clients they were going to take on per year. Well, they said it was a side business. They may only take on like 6 to 10 clients. And I go, oh, wow. So that's not that many. But how much is he charging per client for his services, right? He could be charging them 50 cents each. He could be charging them $100,000 a year. I had no idea. So I said, well, how much are you going to bring in per year off that many clients? And it's roughly about 20K. Not a lot of money. I mean, nowadays that's pocket change for a business. You can't really run a whole business on 20K per year. It's like an ice cream stand or something and a snow cone truck not a very good snow cone truck, I guess. So the simple fact of the matter was that my typical services and pricing and advanced techniques that I use would not bring much value here to this client. If he's only got 6 people he's working with per year, there's no way to scale that. There's not much I'm going to bring. They were dealing with their customers personally. So they were the logo. They were the ones that the customers would be speaking to and engaging. And so they just needed some kind of catchy symbol for t-shirts and such. The logo could be anything. It wouldn't really matter because the client was so dynamic and he was the face of it. And they were hiring him. They weren't hiring a logo. So I proposed that they used a cheaper logo design service that was very affordable. And I offered my consulting a set fixed fee for the value that I would bring with my consulting to help provide them direction to get better results and to help them pick a winner. So that fit their budget and their need, and the price that I offered matched the value that I would be bringing. Now, other clients I've had, they're running multi-million-dollar businesses or businesses that are new and have the capacity to make that much or more. The stakes are higher. The ability to scale and gain more and more clients is exponential. So the importance of getting things right in the beginning is higher. These clients have much different needs. They require more research, a much more precise eye, more testing, more. And because the objective is not just great design, it is effective design. It needs to allow them to stand out and serve its purpose. So there are many more factors at play. The risk is higher. So it means more work, more thinking, more intensity. So in the past, I would offer that same intensity to every client, no matter what their need was. And I charged them all the same, really low rate. I was focused too much on what I was offering and my packages and the features that I wasn't thinking about how their bottom line was being affected by what I was offering them, right? So the way that value-based pricing works is that your rates reflect the value that your work actually brings to the client. It's more quantifiable. You determine the specific needs and you can estimate what a website, let's say, can do for a business in terms of added revenue. Without the site, they're not going to do well. If they have the site, they'll make, between $500,000 and $1 million a year. So it's essential to have. So having this and having it done right, there's a lot on the line to making this happen. And they're business people. They can talk these numbers. They know, they have an idea of what type of value they're going to get by coming to you and getting a certain thing, whatever it may be, whether it's lead generation, marketing, logos, graphic design, websites. I mean, some are more quantifiable than others in terms of what they actually are and how they help the business make money. But if you're bringing that much value, you value your work as a percentage of what you're helping them to make as a business rather than a flat fee. And it's fair. Now, a business might think, well, why should I pay more when I can just pay some other fool yet less? And yeah, you can do that, but you'd be getting work most likely from an inexperienced person that's not going to be as committed to your success. They're just going to do the job and get paid. They're not really going to care about the results that their work gets. And if you're a business that is investing a ton of money and there's a lot on the line, you do not want to hire someone like that. You need to go to an agency who understands what your type of business needs and get better, targeted, quantifiable results. So value-based agency cares about the results that it's getting you. They're more invested. You pay salespeople a commission, a certain percentage of what they're bringing in. So they are more primed to sell higher ticket items, which benefit the business more because they make more. It's win-win. This is why value-based pricing is much more advantageous for everyone. It feels more like a partnership. And as for me, I feel more invested in my clients now than I did in the past. And not only that, but by charging higher prices, I could bring more people, more minds, more specialized talent to do critical things that I may only be somewhat proficient at. See, that's the thing they don't think about. They'll go hire someone that looks good to do a website, but maybe they're not specifically proficient at doing certain things. So they do the best they can, but the results might not be best for the client. Well, now I can build a team for a project and expand the value I can offer by multiple times. I can get the right people on the project. And That's clearly more expensive, but that's only because the results are going to be so much better. There's a better return on investment. So value-based pricing doesn't punish efficiency. It rewards effectiveness. And making more money in my business not only makes me happier and gives me a better quality of life, it frees me up to expand my team, invest in new skills, knowledge, and tools, and increase my overall value to my clients by leaps and bounds. Whereas before, efficiency and growth were punished, now they're rewarded. So no, I don't charge by the hour, I charge by the value. It's like the story of the touch of the master's hand about the violin. You got this violin that was being auctioned off and people weren't willing to pay, hardly anything for it. And this old man comes up, he takes the violin, he plays this amazing song, and everyone's stunned because they heard how capable the violin was at producing that superior sound. So the auctioneer jumps in and he raises the price significantly, and then everyone is raising their hands. They're like, oh yeah, I'll pay that. I'll pay that. So what was the difference? People asked. What's the difference? Why was it worth hardly anything before and it's worth more now? And they conclude that it was the touch of the master's hand. But another way of looking at this story is that at first the violin was being priced as a commodity. It was just a violin, just like a million other violins you can get. But when an expert comes along and can demonstrate value, the thing stops being a commodity because it's clear that there's something starkly different here. Value must be demonstrated. It must be visualized. And as a creative, you must learn how to do this because it will make everything about how you do business better for you, both you, your clients, and their customers. So it's value-based pricing for the win. Now, the master, he played the violin well. But you see, they had to be able to hear the sound of the violin. All the master did was demonstrate the value that was already there in the violin. Now, could the master have played that type of beautiful song on a crappy, cheap violin? Maybe, but maybe not. But the master realized the value of that particular violin and was able to make it sing. And so that's what we have to be able to do in our creative business, is to understand how we can best help the client and the value that we're bringing to the table for them, and pay ourselves fairly so that we can bring the greatest value to the client. That means charging a lot more, but not just for the sake of charging more, but so that we could bring the resources necessary together to give the client the best possible product. That's what we have to learn how to do. So, study value-based pricing. Go educate yourself in whatever way that you can. The knowledge is out there. Go look for it, put it into practice, and be willing to be the disaster until you yourself become the master. Now get out there and create some greatness.